Good morning, guys. Welcome in. It's another beautiful day in the crypto bull market. We got lots of big news. We got Larry Fink of BlackRock talking about stablecoins and crypto. MicroStrategy has bought more Bitcoin, and Circle is looking to do an IPO. Would they be doing an IPO in a bear market? No, guys, because we're still in a bull market. And we got 2 billion in USDT minted, and plus Jim Cramer is saying it's the worst day to even try to buy the dip on stocks. So that's a bullish sign, right, guys? Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you all. Visit Tansaka, if I'm saying that right. Thank you for being a member. Appreciate it. Logan, good morning. Someone special. Thank you for joining the stream. Appreciate that. Laurel, good morning. Crypto Network, how are you? Mr. Elysium, great to have you. Crypto Clay, how you doing? The Tasman 63, good morning. Cryptocurrency news guy, welcome in. Great to have you. Guys, on your way in, smash that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the heart button wherever you're watching and listening. We're streaming across multiple platforms, whether it be Rumble, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, kick.com. We're everywhere trying to spread the news about crypto, guys. Raptar, if I'm saying that right, I apologize if I'm butchering your name. Hello from Thailand. Great to have you from Thailand. I want to visit Thailand so bad. It's on my list. Imad Ali from Pakistan. Welcome in. Logan, the industry isn't for the weak, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure, Logan. And look, this is happening overall. I mean, you look at the stock market, it is also dumping, right? So this is not a crypto specific correction or a pullback, or the headwinds we're facing are not just crypto specific. This is happening across the board with the exception of gold, and we'll talk a bit about that. Attila, hello from Budapest. Wow, great to have you. DC Life from Coral Springs, Florida. Great to have you. Laurel from Bahamas. Wow. I wouldn't mind being in the Bahamas right now. Zihad says, hi, Tony. Always good to see you. Great to have you guys. On your way in, smash that thumbs up button. Hit the heart button. Subscribe if you haven't as yet. We got lots of big and important news to cover, guys. We are still in a bull market. I know that may be hard for some to believe, but we're going to talk about the data, not our feelings and emotions, and what's happening. What are the signals we're seeing? Obviously, Bitcoin struggling right now. We got rejected off that 200-day moving average, which is not a good sign, but we've seen our dips below that moving average in this bull market. Just look what happened last summer, but we came out of it, right? So what we want to see here is that Bitcoin finds the bottom and gets out of this. We don't want to be below the 200-week moving average, 200-day moving average, because nothing good happens there. And then, you look at the stock market, guys. Look at the NASDAQ. I mean, that looks even worse than Bitcoin, right? You look at the S&P 500. And what's causing all of this? The uncertainty around tariffs. That is such a macro factor and narrative. It is scaring and spooking a lot of people. And this is why you're seeing the sell-offs. So we need the tariff situation to come to some point of conclusion. Even if there are going to be tariffs introduced, I think the market needs to know, okay, we're done with this, and it's introduced or it's not introduced or it's removed, right? The market just hates the uncertainty of, is it going to happen or is it not going to happen? We've seen that with election outcomes and many other things. The market hates uncertainty. So we're seeing just dumps across the board. Now, I know some of you are going to say, but look at gold. Well, yeah, gold is usually that hedge in uncertainty, but also it's been a leading indicator for the rotation of liquidity in these markets and these assets. So gold was leading last year, then it had its correction. And then what happened? Crypto and stocks rallied into December. And now gold is picking up steam again. So I think we're seeing a bit of deja vu when it comes to gold and the other assets. So we have to be patient. Good sign is DXY continues to break downwards. It's weakening for sure. And that is good for risk assets. So that's a plus. That is a very good sign. And guys, this is the data right here. I shared on X this morning. Folks, Remember when I was telling you about the buy the rumor, sell the news event that took place in 2024 with the Bitcoin ETF launch? We saw whales essentially do that, right? They started dumping going into the summer, but then they started accumulating the lows. Now, we saw coming out of Q4 of last year, the slowing down of accumulation from whales with wallets of 10 or more Bitcoin. And then it started dropping. And if you recall, I was saying, this has me concerned. Is this the start of a downtrend? And then it plateaued and it was kind of boring sideways. Well, what are the whales doing? Then look at this huge spike. They are anticipating higher prices, and whales move the markets, guys, whether it be Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, they move the markets. So I am very bullish seeing this data. The whales are accumulating, and this downtrend that has started coming out of Q4 has been nullified essentially, right? It's going the opposite direction now. That has me bullish. Once again, following what these guys are doing in the market. Very good sign here. In addition, coins on exchanges, while there was a little bit of an uptick that we saw, right? This could have been the short-term selling by some whales coming out of Q4. It's dropping again. So Bitcoin on the exchanges is dropping. That's a good sign. We've seen that correlation in previous bull market cycles where when they are moving coins back on the platform and this number is going up, that's a bad sign. So notice how the price, the supply was very high in April, May of last year. Why? That was the buy the rumor, sell the news event for the Bitcoin ETFs. See how this works? See the correlation there, right? So still bull market signals here. This is just the data, not my feelings or emotions. The Pi cycle top indicator, which has shown us when Bitcoin has hit the top in the past, where the 111-day moving average and the 350-day moving average essentially hit and cross. We're not close to that yet. Good sign, right? That we're not there yet, despite the macro headwinds and the fear that's out there. Another positive sign, over the past 2 days, 2 billion in USDT has been minted. You know what typically happens here. This gets put into the market. This liquidity gets used to buy the dip. So today, 1 billion minted. And on the 28th, so a couple days ago, another billion minted. And we're not even counting Circle's USDC. So these are good signs, right? Not my feelings, not my emotions. I know I keep repeating myself, but I want to make sure I'm hammering home that we're looking at data, signals, and trends here. Not that, oh, guys, I think Bitcoin's going to go to 120,000 next month. No. What is the market showing us? What are the metrics showing us? So very good sign that we're seeing stablecoin liquidity increase. Now, here's a great one. Inverse Kramer. Jim Cramer said this morning, I can't think of a dumber day to buy stocks than today. And everybody's like, okay, very good sign. Reversal incoming. Jim Cramer is hilarious, man. And you know, you guys know the memes around this. Now, the other factor is, guys, global liquidity continues to rise. And these are signals that are usually in a bull market. When we saw the Fed went into quantitative tightening and global liquidity decrease in 2022, asset prices dumped. It was a true bear market, right? But since then, we've been seeing the rise of global liquidity. Has there been periods where it went sideways? Sure, but look, it's in an uptrend. So risk assets will catch up. I'm talking the stock market, I'm talking Bitcoin and crypto and altcoins. So it will all catch up. And as I was saying, gold is a bit of a leading indicator. Gold is also following global liquidity. So these are great signs, guys. Now, as always, there are no guarantees. There are no certainties. I don't have a crystal ball, but I use the data I have today to form my thesis. And you can see logic will tell you some of the things that we're seeing here with pattern recognition and what we've seen historically. So very good sign. Now, look at this. Despite the tariff fears, it's what I've been saying. Nothing stops the money printing train. Trump is considering a bailout package for American farmers to shelter the domestic agriculture industry from his tariffs. What do you think is going to happen, guys? Where is the bailout money going to come from? What have we seen historically? In 2020, when they had to do the stimulus, they had to print. In 2008, after that big crash, what did they have to do? Where did the money come for the bailout? They have to print. Same story, different cycle, different president. The point is, it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. This is the fiat money system. You have to have this understanding as your baseline for investing and why assets rise. When you go to the micro of a company and its stock price and its earnings, yes, one stock can outperform the other. But the baseline, the rising tide that lifts all boats, is global liquidity, guys. That's why I'm sharing this data with you, because assets are correlated. When you understand this, it makes investing a lot easier. I'm not saying it's going to be super easy because there's volatility, but it helps you to navigate the markets a lot better because knowledge is power. You have an understanding of which billions of people don't understand. And I only learned this because of the people I've interviewed, the macro investors I've been following, and just researching and studying, because I wanted to get to the understanding of why do assets keep going up, right? Even in a overall correction, they still maintain higher lows, higher highs and higher lows, right? Why doesn't it all just go down to the zero? What's stopping it from going to zero? Liquidity. Just like we saw in 2020 when the world shut down, right? And we were in that pandemic, one would think assets would just dump to zero. No one's going out and spending, doing stuff. We're all inside. Money printing kept the stock market and assets going. So understand that baseline fundamental. Guys, what Trump is saying here, all politics aside, right? I'm not here to tell you Trump is the best or Trump. That's not the point of this. The point is, what is he doing that will impact assets? The tariffs are creating uncertainty, and he recognizes that, and he's going to do a bailout package. And I don't think the agricultural industry will be the only industry he's going to have to help out here. I think they're going to have to help out other industries as well. Maybe the auto industry, with these tariffs that are going to be in place. We'll see. But guys, nothing stops the money printing train. And guess what? That will contribute to higher liquidity. Whether it's China doing stimulus, Europe, whatever, United States, it just drives this liquidity up, guys. So there it is. Tell me where the money's coming from. They have to print. And it's what we've been talking about for the past 2 years. The Fed will pause rate hikes. They will start cutting rates. They will end QT. What did Jerome Powell say literally 2 weeks ago? We're ramping down QT. So essentially ending it, because the number that they ramped down to from 25 billion to like 80%, right? Drop. That is essentially ending it. And then you have a catalyst, which is the tariffs, it seems like, that will drive the money printer again. And they're going to have to print. So point is, this is all good for assets. I'm not saying it's good for the US dollar or the debt, but it's good for assets, right? We are in these assets to obviously outpace debasement and inflation. And as billionaire Paul Tudor Jones said, Bitcoin and crypto are the fastest horse in the race, and essentially the race of assets. Yes, you can invest in real estate, you can put it in stocks, you can put it in gold, but nothing gives you returns like crypto. And that is because it is a truly global market, and many of these crypto assets are hard capped. Bitcoin is hard capped, while gold can continue to be mined, and you can have you can go mine on asteroids if you want, right? There's talks of that. And then stocks, you guys know how all that works. So this is where crypto is the best bet, and why you see a lot of the hedge funds and VCs coming in. So big news here. Guys, before we continue, be sure to check out our sponsors, Uphold, VeChain, Propy, BitGo. Links will be in the description. Also, sign up for my free email newsletter. I'll be putting out a newsletter today. You don't want to miss it. Check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital. And check out my new course at mycryptocourse.com. So guys, this is a big statement from Trump, the bailout, and that will lead to quantitative easing, guys. Now, Michael Saylor continues to buy Bitcoin. while I'm a bit concerned about the leverage he's using to do this, he's taking the bet because I think he anticipates higher prices. I don't think he would be doing this if he didn't see that higher prices were around the corner. So MicroStrategy or Strategy has acquired over 22,000 more Bitcoin for approximately $1.92 billion at a price of about 86,969 Bitcoin. Incredible. He holds over 528,000 Bitcoin. And that's a bit scary from a leverage standpoint. If he had the cash on his balance sheet and he was just simply buying Bitcoin with the cash on his balance sheet, no problem. But the leverage does worry me. But as I said before, I hope nothing bad happens. I hope this does not blow up on him because it will blow up a lot of the crypto market, right? Let's be real with what he's doing here. Now, look at this. The Trump family is launching Bitcoin mining venture with Hut 8. Hut transfers all Bitcoin ASICs to American Bitcoin Corp, a majority-owned subsidiary created by a previous buyout of American data centers formed by a group of investors that includes Eric and Don Jr. Trump. So Trump's kids. Eric Trump is to serve as the chief strategy officer. This is wild. And it shows you Bitcoin's here to stay. This market's here to stay. They wouldn't be doing this if they're going to lose money. If we are in a bear market, they would not be doing this. You guys know how Trump works, right? He wants to make money. He's a capitalist. So he's not going to do this. This is a macro signal to show, hey, we're still in the bull market, right? He's not going to do this to lose money. That Bitcoin mining stocks are not doing well right now. Bitcoin itself is struggling. The stock market is struggling. Why would he go do this now and, go into a bear market and lose money? He's not going to do that. So this is a sign that they're bullish. And I think they know that maybe the Bitcoin reserve bill will be passed. And that could, that's going to bring in a ton of capital into Bitcoin itself, as well as mining stocks, guys. So this is huge. Now, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink makes some big statements. He warns the dollar is at risk of losing the world reserve currency status to digital assets like Bitcoin. I think this is Larry's essentially smoke signal saying, Congress, you need to pass stablecoin legislation. So let me give you the details here. So in his annual letter to investors on Monday, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink warned that if the US doesn't get its debt under control and deficits keep ballooning, the country risks losing its world reserve currency status to digital assets like Bitcoin. US has benefit. Okay, let me skip that. This year, let me see. I'm trying to get his other statements. Okay. He says, I'm obviously not anti-digital assets, Fink said. But two things can be true at the same time. Decentralized finance is an extraordinary innovation. It makes markets faster, cheaper, and more transparent. Yet the same innovation could undermine America's economic advantage if investors begin seeing Bitcoin as a safer bet than the dollar. So if they get stablecoin legislation passed and stablecoin issuers are able to buy the treasury assets, right, to back their reserves, and they are able to push US dollar stablecoins into different markets, especially we know a lot of people around the world want US dollars. And if you give it to them in a digital, fast, instant settlement format, that's going to boost adoption of the US dollar. And if, listen to this, guys, if you are able to have them hold it in a wallet and earn yield, that's a game changer. Right now, they can't. If you're in some country in South America, you have the dollar. There's not much you can do with it except use it, obviously, but you can't really earn yield or interest, right? Because the banking system is not set up like that. So I think Larry's, once again, given the signal, Congress, get your shit together and pass stablecoin legislation, pass crypto market legislation, because it will put the guardrails in place. So guys, Larry knows what he's doing. And he also talked more about tokenization. And, he's very bullish overall on the market and everything. So let's see if he had any statements here on tokenization. Okay, here we go. The BlackRock CEO suggested that tokenization is akin to moving from postal services to email for investing, enabling assets to move directly and instantly sidestepping intermediaries. Every stock, every bond, every fund, every asset can be tokenized, Fink said. If they are, it will revolutionize investing. Markets wouldn't need to close. Transactions that currently take days would clear in seconds, and billions of dollars currently immobilized by settlement delays could be reinvested immediately back into the economy, generating more growth. Please tell me you are still bearish after hearing this, after reading this. Please tell me if you are still bearish. Guys, BlackRock, you guys have seen what they've been doing with the US government, buying real estate. Go back to 2008. Larry Fink is telling you what's coming. Be patient. I know that the volatility sucks, but this is not what do you call it? Going to the casino. This is not gambling. This is investing. And investing requires patience. It requires research. It's not going and playing the slot machine. It's not playing the lottery. You just go to wherever you buy your lottery tickets. That's not what this is. So you have to change your thinking and the way you approach it. Obviously, don't be dumb and put money you can't afford to lose. Don't put your life savings, right? That's just dumb, because markets are volatile and you need operating cash. You need cash to pay your bills and your rent and your mortgage and all that jazz, right? But you want to allocate a good amount into assets. And the setup here is beautiful, guys. Look at what Larry's saying. They're going to put every stock, every bond, real estate, all of it is going to be tokenized. And he's highlighting the benefits, the instant settlement, the opening up of the markets to globally. And, one of the things he was saying, he wants everybody to be able to invest. So when you tokenize it and put in a digital format, folks don't need to be accredited. They can simply log on to an app and be able to invest and buy a fraction. So imagine you can buy a fraction of a real estate, and you just simply have, let's say you have $100 to invest. You're someone who lives in even low income, area, and you're struggling, but you have $50 to invest. With tokenized assets, you will be able to do that. I can buy a fraction of this stock. I can buy a fraction of this real estate, of this asset. And that's what Larry's trying to do. And it gives people more financial opportunities, guys. That's where we're headed. And the infrastructure, with people having smartphones and the internet being much faster with 5G and much more, is there. So they recognize that. The majority of the world, because a lot of people don't have computers, but they have smartphones. That is where we're headed, guys. And he's spot on what he's saying with the opportunity is going to open up for the economy. So don't get shaken out, guys. Don't get shook out. It's important to see where we're headed. These are big statements from Larry. And like I said, his statement around the US dollar is essentially putting pressure on Congress to pass stablecoin and crypto market legislation. Huge news here. Now, Senator Cynthia Lummis, who's obviously behind the Bitcoin Act, where the United States can buy Bitcoin for a reserve, she retweeted the statements from Larry Fink and said, "Say it with me, pass the Bitcoin Act." So you see what's happening here. I hope you step back and you see what's happening here. Really big stuff. Now, here's another signal. Circle, the issuer of the USDC stablecoin, guys, they are eyeing April for their IPO. Who the hell IPOs in a bear market? Please answer me that. Who the hell IPOs in a bear market? We are in a bull market. We are in a deep correction, but it's not over. And look, this obviously is a signal from a big company, and these guys are not playing around. They're not just going to say, yeah, let's just do an IPO this month. No, they're going to go through all their analytics, all their data, all their strategy. There's a whole teams of people looking at this. Where do we think the market's going to be? Is consumer confidence completely lost? Is the tariff going to put us in a depression and all that? No, what did I just highlight to you guys earlier? Trump said he wants to do a bailout package. QE is coming. Asset prices will rise, more liquidity, more capital in the markets. This will bring back confidence. People will feel more confident to invest. I hope you see how all these things are correlated. So they're eyeing April for their IPO and working with investment banks JP Morgan and Citi as underwriters. Again, Are they going to IPO in a bear market? Why the hell would they IPO in a bear market? So huge news here. Guys, hit the thumbs up button. We are in a bull market. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit the heart button. Hit the like button. Wherever you're watching and listening. Here, Robert Dish, I think, is saying it right here. Tank the market so banks can buy cheaper. Yeah, that's what's going on. You got to read between the lines here, guys. It's pretty crazy. All right, before we continue, check out our sponsors: Uphold, VeChain, Propy, BitGo. Links will be in the description. Sign up for our free email newsletter. I'll be putting out a newsletter today. Check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital. And my new course at mycryptocourse.com. Expand your crypto knowledge, guys. Hear from founders, CEOs, institutional investors, and get as much knowledge as possible about this asset class. Now, big news around HBAR. Hedera Hashgraph sees Q3 debut of Hedera-based institutional private blockchain. So this is cool. Hashgraph is developing a private permission blockchain called HashSphere, aimed for enterprises in highly regulated industries to go live in the third quarter. HashSphere aims to bridge private and public distributed ledgers, providing services to asset managers, banks, and payment providers for secure, low-cost cross-border transactions with stablecoins while ensuring regulatory compliance. The platform integrates Hedera's existing tools, is compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine, and is currently working with early partners, including Australian Payments Plus, Australia's national payment scheme operator. So we're seeing a lot of blockchains are building private permissioned sectors of their blockchain. And that's needed for institutions because they don't want to put their proprietary secure information out there. I mean, this makes sense, right? But I know some people are going to say, because there's always a lot of questions around XRP and the private side chains. What you have to study, guys, is Metcalfe's law, network effects. The more building on a blockchain, the more adoption, the more valuable that network becomes. And now that you have tokens on these networks, the more valuable those tokens become. So even if all the transactions are not counted because they're on the private aspect, or the token, that the token transactions on that private ledger or blockchain is not being accounted for, that's okay. That's not a big deal, because you just simply need to know, oh, this bank is using Hashgraph or using the XRP ledger. That alone is good for market speculation, and it will help increase the price, and it strengthens the blockchain, of course, guys. So huge news here for Hashgraph. I am bullish on HBAR. I have it in my portfolio. Many of you know that. So guys, we are still in the bull market. Things are still looking good. And if you're now joining, I'll quickly recap. We need Bitcoin to find its bottom, bounce, and get above the 200-day moving average. The stock market is feeling a lot of pain as well. We need that to reverse as well. The good signs, the DXY weakening, it is on its way down. We had a huge spike in Bitcoin whales with wallets of 10 or more Bitcoin started accumulating after a mini downtrend and some sideways movement, a big spike. Very good sign. Whales anticipating higher prices. Supply on exchanges, Bitcoin supply on exchanges, after a slight incline, has been going back down. Good sign. Pi cycle top indicator has not signaled yet. We got a lot of stablecoin liquidity coming in, 2 billion in USDT minted over the past couple of days. We know a lot of that liquidity will go into the markets. Jim Cramer is getting bearish, saying, I can't think of a dumber day to buy stocks than today. So he's getting bearish. That's a good sign. Global liquidity continues to rise. And I think the big news, guys, Trump is talking bailout package because of the effects of the tariffs. Where is he going to get the money to pay or give the bailout package? Print, baby, print, QE. That's what they're going back to. We already saw the Fed, Jerome Powell, just in the last FOMC hearing. He said, hey, we're ramping down QT. Guys, we've been talking about this over the past 2 days. The ultimate goal, the destination is money printer. because this is the fiat system. Doesn't matter if you're Trump, Biden, Obama, whoever, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. Get the politics out of the way and understand that this is the system and that assets are correlated and they move as global liquidity moves. So huge news, guys. All right, I can take some questions. XRP Plumbing, how you doing? Good to see you. Cyberhawk, good idea. We won't be going down forever. Of course, guys. I know that the emotions and the shock sometimes of what the market's doing makes us forget history. Did we go down forever in 2022? Remember the FTX crash? Remember how many people were scared then? Did we go down forever? No, we found a bottom. Guys, as long as the world still exists, there's no apocalypse, we are still buying and selling and having to live and need goods and services, markets will exist. And there will be buyers at the bottom, because as long as civilization is in place, markets will keep going higher, guys. This is common sense stuff, right? Remember March 2020, right? Remember how everybody was scared? Oh my God, the end of the world. Oh no, shutting down. The markets go down forever? No. They shake out the weak hands, the people who don't understand what's happening, and the smart money comes in and buys up. In 2008, guys, in 2008, the big crash where a lot of people thought that was the end of capitalism and the end of the world and all that, right? Remember the fear? 2008. Did it go down forever? No. Markets find their bottom and they keep going. As long as the apocalypse is not here, or the zombie apocalypse, and civilization is still exists, and people still need to get goods and services and live life, markets will exist. So don't panic. Now, the key thing we often need to know is this the start of the bear market, right? Or are we still in the bull market? Based on the data, we're still in a bull market. This just looks like a retest. And you may say, how the hell do you know that? Well, just look at the RSI. If we were in the oversold zone, we bounced up, relief rally, we're going back down. We'll test some of the lows there and then work our way back up. It's done this before. Look at this. Perfect example going back to October 2023. Look at this. Oversold zone, relief rally, go back and test it, then blast off. Blast off. See it? Retest, and then we'll have our blast off. Pokemon says, it's the end of my relationship. She packed her bags last night, but not panicking still. She may come back if we ever get a bear market. Oh, man. Fabio says, Tony, you look like you're desperately in denial. No, Fabio, I'm not in denial. Look, you can believe what you want. You may be shorting the market, so you're saying that. But, dude, I haven't sold anything. I'm looking to buy the dips here. I'm going to buy some... maybe some of these different altcoins, maybe some XRP and so forth, but not in denial, my friend. XRP Plumbing, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you for the $19.99. Thank you. Natasha Charles says, afternoon from Philly. Tony, does the M2s really have a correlation to BTC direction? I'm trying to understand the movement. To answer your question, yes. So there is a lag, and let me actually pull up a great chart from my friend Crypto Currently. He has actually a great short-term chart. So, Natasha, to answer your question, the data doesn't lie. Look at this, right? And this also plays out with not only Bitcoin, but all risk assets. I'm talking the stock market as well. So we're just using Bitcoin as the measuring stick, essentially, for showing what's happening. So you see Bitcoin follows. Is it a exact science? Of course not, right? Can there be deviations at certain points? Yes. But I would say 90% of the time, it's following this, guys. And this is what the macro guys use, the VCs and the hedge funds. They use this in addition to other signals, but global liquidity is a big one. So it's playing out. And when global liquidity was dumping in 2022, guess what Bitcoin, crypto, and all that was doing? That was when the Fed went into quantitative tightening. If you guys recall, November 2021, Jerome Powell says, Yeah, we're going into QT. So it's correlated, guys. A lot of zombies these days. Well, welcome in, Crypto Cruiser. Luis, great to have you. XRP Market, great to have you. Thank you for being a channel member, by the way. Appreciate that. Oh, you're talking about XRP? XRP plumbing, my prediction overnight. Nobody knows when it's going to happen. All-time high will be $13. And then what happens from... Okay, got it. So Cyberhawk says, predictions for Q2. So seasonality-wise, Q2 has been great in a bull market for crypto in the stock market, right? So we have that baseline. However, we're facing a lot of macro uncertainty with these tariffs. So as I stated earlier, I'm hoping that April 2nd, I believe, is the deadline for Trump, right? This week. So I hope that if they're not doing the tariffs, or if they are, we have the certainty that we have a decision, right? We're in the fork of the road. We go in one direction because the market hates the uncertainty. If that is not resolved, it could be a rough Q2. It could be a late rally in Q2, or it gets resolved this week and then the markets start picking up steam again. And one of the things, though, even if Trump does his tariffs, if he's going to do bailouts, that's very good for the market. So this is promising. So, if I was to put a bet, I think we do have a good Q2. It will be, and it seems like it'll be more of a local top, or maybe it runs to the blow-off top. It's hard to tell, but I think there's a higher probability that we have a good Q2 based on what we're seeing here. The April 2nd deadline, Trump talking bailout package, and we still have global liquidity going up and DXY weakening. These are all good factors for the market continuing. Lewis, thank you. I appreciate that. Scott, you and Crypto Klaus are my favorites to listen to. No hopium, just reality and data. Appreciate that, Scott. Thank you. Yeah, try to stay away from the hopium and just be real with you guys. Because look, I'm in the same boat with all of you. I want to make money. Right? Like my portfolio is up from, the bottom in December 2022 because I was buying then in January 2023. Right, I was buying down here, so my portfolio is up, but obviously I'm down in the short term because of this massive correction. So David asked a great question. Do you think with a pro-crypto government, we will see new cycles form? David, it's possible, because here's the thing. With more liquidity, or I should say, because the government will pass legislation, it will allow more liquidity. It will allow the banks and all the big institutions to come in. Well, when they come in, they're going to bring a lot of liquidity and a lot of stability, because they don't sell like retail. And many of them don't necessarily sell the way hedge funds do, where, they're taking their profits, they're longing, they're shorting, and so forth. Don't get me wrong. There's some certain factions of the banks, the investment banks, that do that, but the majority will hold. And if they're going to go out and pitch mom and pop, the average Joe and Jane, and say, hey, this is Jane from JP Morgan, Mr. Smith, come buy Bitcoin with us and we'll custody it for you, and you can put in your retirement account. You will have a lot more coins that are not going to move for a long time. That's going to help with the downside and even the upside, right? It's going to be not good for the upside, as far as movement of a price, but also it may mitigate the extent of the corrections and the bear markets. So we could see bear markets that are not as deep, like kind of like the stock market, right? The stock market doesn't have corrections at the same level as Bitcoin and crypto. It has corrections, but not at the same level. I mean, you look at, let's look at in 2022, the decline for the S&P 500, not as bad as what we saw for Bitcoin and certain altcoins, right? So just things to keep in mind, and that we could see a bit of a change in the cycles. They may not be as volatile, but the 4-year cycles, we'll have to see how it plays out, because there is a hard cap on these coins, many of them. So there could be some adjustment, but to what extent, I'm not sure. The guy Richard says, will you take Neuralink to use your Bitcoin? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean Elon's Neuralink? But what do you mean by using Bitcoin? Do you mean like where you don't have to physically do anything, you just have to think and you can pay for something with Bitcoin? Sam says, hi Tony, despite all the future positivity, M2 DXY down, we have to admit that Trump effed the global market with his foolish actions. Yes, Sam, look, would I done what Trump did, get into office and then right away start this massive tariff thing that's putting a lot of uncertainty in the markets? No, but is this a Bretton Woods, where it's not just Trump? This is the Davos, IMF, World Economic Forum, whole move, right? Of let's get back to some sort of tariff standard. It's possible. And we know, though, what they're going to do. Trump is already saying it. To fix a lot of the problems, bailout package. They're going to print their way out of it. So it's hard to tell sometimes because, and I'm not talking from a political standpoint, right? I'm not talking about from a voting standpoint or anything. I'm just talking about what I see world governments do, what I see central banks do, and that I look at it from the macro. I'm not being biased towards Democrat or Republican at all, but just a lot of people get caught up in the divisiveness of politics and don't realize Democrats and Republicans agree on a lot of things, especially money printing and raising the debt ceiling. Right? They put on a show. There's a lot of political theater, but they agree on a lot of stuff. Andrew says, just got here. Watch Guru posted China, Japan, and South Korea will jointly respond to tariffs. So, yeah, let's see what happens April 2nd. And the good thing, though, once again, Trump is already talking stimulus. You know that's good for assets. Jungle Boy, it says, bring back Biden. No go, brand. Oh, man. XRP Fleming says, Tony, I hear Pocahontas butthurt about XRP / wonder if anything to do with John Deaton almost whooping her butt. Wouldn't surprise me. She's taking a beating these days. Shiz Bob says, with the November 2025 deadline for ISO 222 compliance for all banks and financial institutions, could that be a catalyst for prices to go up, or will onboarding happen gradually? Yeah, look, to be quite honest, I don't think ISO 222 is a narrative for prices to go up. I think it's global liquidity, the Bitcoin reserve, the digital stockpile, crypto legislations are the stronger narratives. David says, Chris and Ciero said this in his last AMA, so I got my hopes up, and I'm really hoping for some great profit-taking opportunities. Yeah, David, this is where, you really got to be patient. This is takes a lot of patience, but when in doubt, zoom out, David. If you look at the chart, what do you see? Simple pattern recognition, right? We were in a bull market 2020, 2021. We were in a bear market in 2022. Since 2023, we've been running up, guys, and this thing runs in 3-year intervals, so this year still has some room to grow. And even if, let's say, worst case scenario, I'm not saying this is what's happening, but the bull market's over and we are indeed entering a bear market. Are you panic selling, or are you zooming out saying, hey, look, we know the markets will keep going up, right? The big scare and the big lie that's told to everybody is market's going to zero, right? That's the big sensationalized headline. But like I said earlier, as long as there's civilization and it's not the zombie apocalypse and people need to buy and sell goods and still need to live and still want to invest and so forth, markets will go back up. So that's my perspective now. I used to be on the roller coaster ride like, oh my God, it's going down. Oh no, I'm going to lose all my money. And then I realized, wait a minute, corrections, pumps, that's the cycle. And in addition, if I don't sell, I'm not actually losing anything. On paper, I'm losing, Well, likewise, when the price goes up, if I don't take profits, I have gains on paper, but I don't actually have the gains in my hands, the cash. So you got to put it into perspective. Perspective is so important, and you got to check your emotions. Appreciate that, David. Thank you. Robert says, how far down do you think it needs to go for the price of Bitcoin? That's a great question. So let me pull this back up. I think, as I mentioned earlier, there's some sort of retest happening here. So if there's a retest, I think it probably has to maybe, not guaranteed, go back to 76K. If this thing starts to go below 76, 75, and it's going on here, I'm going to be worried. I'll be on here telling you guys, okay, I'm worried. This is very different, but I think this is a simple retest. And then we're going to shoot out of here, honestly. Sam says this bull market will be very selective and limited. It's possible, certainly possible. Or Sam, the macro factors of crypto legislation, Trump already teasing money printer to bail out industries from the effects of tariffs, are going to be the euphoric moment that pumps everything. You know what I mean, Sam? To your point, up till now, yes, it has been selective and limited. Yes, you can argue that because the majority of altcoins haven't moved. Certain altcoins have moved. Obviously, XRP, you look at HBAR, they've moved, right? But we haven't seen the whole thing go crazy like we've seen in the past, where it's euphoria. And euphoria is where people think it won't stop. It's going to keep going. You're an idiot for taking profits, right? It will get to that. I know it's hard to believe. It will get to that. And that could be, once again, the money printer, as Trump is teasing here, the tariff stuff behind us, crypto legislation passed by Congress. That could really send things crazy, guys. So just be open-minded to all scenarios. Scott says, is it me or am I one of the few who thinks this pullback is a great opportunity for investors? Back to fair and discounted price, powder on the side, just in a stablecoin to invest, in my opinion. Yes, Scott, great point. And let me actually share this chart from crypto currently. Great chart. Exactly what you're talking about. A move back to fair value. This, by investment principles, great place to buy. I'm not telling you to buy. I'm not telling you to invest. Just by investment principles, great place to buy. If you're buying the expensive, very expensive zone, not good, right? Fair value, great place. Obviously, cheap is good, but in the context of the cycle, we want this, where we're at with this pullback, great place to buy. So something to think about there. Scott says, a short-term pain equals long-term prosperity. Everything will be okay. Future looks bright. Absolutely. Perspective is so important. If you're just looking in the next week, the next month, the next 6 months, and don't get me wrong, I'm also looking the next 6 months, but I also realize I'm playing the macro game here. My portfolio is already up, but I know there's more gains here because of how early we are in this market. Jennifer says, why do you think Elizabeth Warren is still hating on Ripple? Oh, well, I mean, Gary just took a big fat L with the SEC dropping the case and the appeal, right? And plus, Ripple was a big spender in the election cycle, so she's not happy. Machine Guns Polly says, is there a time frame on when institutional banks will hold crypto assets? So great question. What we saw is SAB 121 was repealed. We saw last week Operation Choke Point 2.0 was essentially ended by the OCC and the FDIC. I think within the next 6 months, we're going to see these banks hold crypto, guys. There may be some additional regulations are needed, but the restrictions, the shackles that were holding them back have been removed. And remember what Bank of America's CEO said just about a month ago, and that is once stablecoin legislation is passed, they're going to issue their own stablecoin. I think BNY Mellon is already working on getting crypto custody up and running. They've been working on it for years, but SAB 121 put the restrictions on them. But now that the FDIC is backing this, and in addition, SAB 121 repeal, It's going to be right around the corner. And I'm telling you, they're going to pitch it to their customers, and they're going to offer crypto, the ability to trade crypto, buy crypto, and custody with them. That's going to be a game changer. Oscar says, I'm plugged in from France. Welcome, Oscar. Great to have you. Scott says, unfortunately, Deaton got crushed. It wasn't even close. Yeah, but the good thing, Scott, he got Elizabeth Warren looking over her shoulder. She was definitely scared. You just see the stuff she was saying, and she knew crypto had a lot of money. But it's going to take time to chip away at Elizabeth Warren's strong stranglehold that she has, up there. But she's definitely losing power overall with the Democrats because they screwed up the election big time. AOC Sim says, when moon? Well, hopefully Q2 we start rallying again, and then we'll see how far the market goes. Lionel Scorpions, welcome in from Mexico. Great to have you. David says, never panic sell. Absolutely. Guys, if you're panic selling, that means you don't have control over your emotions. Now, if you need to sell because you have a life change, there's some emergency in your life and you need capital, then by all means, you got to do what you got to do. But if you're just living your life normally and you see your asset prices going down because of the market volatility and you're panic selling, you got to educate yourself and go to the next level. Look, I was there with you at that point, right? But I had to learn to control my emotions and understand what's happening in the markets. Scott says, BTC to 75K and I jump in, I can go down in the process, I'll buy more. Yeah, if you have a macro outlook, that's a great way to do it. Obviously, if you're short term and you're investing more than you can afford to lose, not a good recipe. Sefaf, if I'm saying that right, says, Tony, what is your top 5 for this run? So let me pull up CoinMarketCap here. My top 5, XRP is my number 1 holding, Bitcoin my number 2. I still believe Ethereum is going to run when they add staking to the ETF and much more. I have it as my number 3, Solana my number 4, and Sui my number 5. Those are my top 5 that I'm betting on. Obviously, I have other coins like Chainlink, Hedera, HBAR, which I believe are going to run, but those coins I listed as my top 5, I believe will give me the biggest gains. I could be wrong. Maybe Hedera surprises us, Chainlink, things like that, right? We never know how the market's going to play out, but this is why you diversify. David R. more or less says, Tony, I don't believe I've ever heard your opinion on NFTs. Do you hold they are good for market? So I'm a big believer in NFT technology. I am not holding any NFTs as far as artwork is concerned, right? You had a lot of different artworks and movements and communities. Nothing wrong with that. But I believe those are very risky because there's no utility behind them. It's just speculative, and nothing wrong with people speculate on artwork, right? But you have to look at the rarity, who's behind it, and so forth. What I will look to do, if there are NFTs being issued by a big brand that is offering up utility, let's say it's the NBA, let's say it's Apple or whatever, right? Google or something, and it unlocks a utility that people want, right? That it creates demand, I'm going to invest. But I am super bullish on NFTs as a technology. I think NFTs are going to power a lot of stuff, tickets, insurance contracts, titles, deeds, and much more. And I'm curious who's going to be able to, provide the infrastructure if you get all of that done. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Bitcoin Bullhorn says, relax, boys. This is easy waiting compared to 10 years ago. Yeah, for sure. The U.S. government is with us. Absolutely. Well said. Guys, hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the heart button, wherever you're watching and listening. Subscribe if you haven't as yet. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Uphold, VeChain, Propy, BitGo, and subscribe to my free email newsletter. I'll be putting out a newsletter today. Check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital, and my new course at mycryptocourse.com. All the links will be in the description. Okay, let's see here. Gavin says, will XRP drop through $2? It's possible, but let's see. Yeah, it's possible. It could go back and touch the 200-day moving average, honestly. So what we've been talking about is the macro factors. How long will this tariff stuff go on? You know, how long will it persist? Because the market hates uncertainty. The market wants you guys, it wants to know which direction. Are we going to do tariffs or are we not going to do tariffs? And that's, you know, a big factor to think about. Let me just fix something here with my stream, because I think my description does not populate. So I want to make sure you guys have all the things in the description. Come on. Okay. YouTube giving me some problems here. Okay. Chavda says, what about the VeChain ecosystem? So guys, I am bullish on VeChain. They're one of my sponsors, but I've been invested in the VET token since 2018. So I'm bullish on this project. Right now, as with all altcoins, it's suffering a bit, but I'm hoping VeChain can get back to its all-time highs and break through, of course. Maybe go up to 50 cents or higher. That would be really great. I'll be taking some nice profits there. Kevin Van Stark, GM, good morning. Good to have you, Kevin. Fred Williams says, will anybody investigate Gensler for his actions? Obviously, unfortunately, Fred, this is the problem with the bureaucracy and the government. A lot of these guys get off scot-free. You can't even do anything to them. It really sucks. Yeah, Majid, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, I'm in the ride with you guys. I'm in the journey with you guys. And I've learned how to make money in this market. And also, I've lost money in this market in my early days, but been on a journey to learn as much as possible and trying to share that knowledge with you guys. So as always, a big part of investing is patience and emotional control, excuse me. OJM89 says, hey, Tony, love from Ireland. Welcome in. Wow. It's amazing when you have people coming in from around the world on these streams. Being DCAing into HBAR, VET, XRP for the past couple of years. Thanks for keeping us all sane. Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And I hold all three, of course. So I'm with you. I'm hoping for higher gains here. Let's see here. Machine Guns Paulie says, why is Bitcoin still up if it has no utility to offer yet it's slow and move? So Machine Guns Kelly, be careful with narratives, right? I'm going to be very transparent with you. There are XRP specific channels that pump these narratives. Bitcoin is digital gold. So by saying Bitcoin has no utility is actually false. You may say it's not great for payments, and I agree with you there. But as gold itself is just a rock, a shiny rock, right? Yes, it's used for applications and certain products and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's a rock. So the utility it has is store of value, and that it's a hard asset. It's treated as hard money because in its history, it was used as money at one point. Bitcoin is a digital version of that. So to say Bitcoin has no utility is false. And there are people using Bitcoin with the Lightning Network. Now, That's not happening globally. There's not millions of people doing that. But to say it has no utility is false. I think intellectually false, right? We can't just say that. You may say, well, this other coin has more utility, is better for payments. Yes, agreed. And understand that Bitcoin has the most decentralized network out there. So there's a value in that. And that's why there's ETFs. So you can't just think of it as, oh, well, I can't really go spend Bitcoin day to day very easily. That is a con, right? There's pros and cons, but you got to make sure you're looking at it holistically. So be careful with folks who are putting narratives out there. This is why I hold Bitcoin in my portfolio, because I know Bitcoin has the most liquidity. It's number one, the most trusted, the most decentralized network, and is treated as digital gold. So if my certain altcoins don't perform, I have some Bitcoin that performs. Now, if you're following a certain narrative where it's like, oh, Bitcoin sucks, it's slow, it has no utility, and you're only looking at that, you're missing the pros and you're missing the performance that Bitcoin can offer. So just keep that in mind. Yep, 2008, they all got up for sure. VeChain still patient. Yeah, for sure, Andrew. I'm with you. Gold is inert. Well, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. I was trying to give gold a compliment, but at the end of the day, if an alien came down from space and they asked, what is this? It's a rock that you mine out of the ground, right? I mean, you know what I mean, right? A shiny metal that you mine out of the ground. So guys, we got to be patient. And let's see. Let's hope this tariff stuff wraps up come April 2nd, man. I'm getting tired of it, even though I'm not worried about it. It's just annoying, like the back and forth, right? It's like the bipolar aspect of this. It really sucks. Like it's annoying at this point, boring. And I think it just creates a lot of uncertainty and people want to get back to normalcy. But as mentioned, I think the big signal here of QE and liquidity to fix some of these problems that the tariffs may cause are there. Trump just gave the signal. So at some point, they're going to return to QE and assets are going to pump. Thanks, Nix. I appreciate it. Out of London. Very cool. Great to have you. Keith says, is BTC lagging behind gold? Yes. So I mentioned this earlier that we saw last year that gold was a leader. And if you recall, it was running up into November, corrected heavily, and then kind of cooled down. And we saw in November, Bitcoin and the stock market and crypto were ripping. So gold has been a bit of a leader and there's some cycling of liquidity. Now, some people can argue and say, well, wait a minute, gold is rallying because of the uncertainty of the tariffs. Yes, I think that's a narrative for it, but the fact that it is rallying is a good sign, and I think there's going to be some rotation of liquidity. Daniel says, bring on regulatory clarity. Guys, I think when we get crypto legislation, stablecoin legislation, that's very bullish in the market. It's one of the macro factors that are going to drive prices higher, because when that is passed, it allows all the institutions that are sitting on the sideline, that are just dipping their toes in the water, saying, let's be careful here until we get the clarity, to just go all in. They'll put more capital. They'll start building more and so forth. Lawrence says the tariffs are about to crush the market. Lawrence, that could be possible. But going back to my earlier statements, we don't want to just be fear and doom, like, oh no, the world's coming to an end. We saw this in March 2020 with the pandemic. We saw this in 2008, right? The world doesn't come to an end because of these things. It causes corrections, but we will find a bottom and get out of here. And like I said, in context now, make sure you keep the context. Trump is already talking about stimulus, bailout package. That means they have to print. That means more liquidity and global liquidity will rise, and asset prices, we know are correlated, will continue to rise. So when I look at all these things together, and once again, I'm with you that things could get a bit more choppy, more painful over the next couple of weeks. But what we've been dealing with this for what? 2 months, 3 months? It'll wrap up. The market just wants to know, where the hell are we going? Are you going to do the tariffs or not do it? Because we've been getting back and forth mixed signals. It's been creating a lot of uncertainty. I think once we have the certainty of they're doing it or not doing it, and if they are doing it and Trump is introducing stimulus, you know what's going to happen. Take off. So Claude says, hey, Tony, the White House crap fund interested in tokenized security digital assets related companies of ETH Network. And yeah, I think we talked about it in the last stream. Luke, we talked about HBAR earlier. I am bullish on HBAR. We actually had some big news around HBAR where Hedera is launching the institutional private blockchain. So we talked a bit about that earlier. Skrilla the Gorilla says, with the current administration, markets expect volatility. To a certain degree, I think if Trump didn't really come out with these tariffs, we would have already found the bottom and started moving up. Because remember, we had a massive run up in Q4, incredible performance. A natural, healthy market reaction would then be, hey, cool down, find a bottom, and then blast off. But you throw tariffs into that, and this thing becomes extended and more volatile. So that's what's happening here. I don't agree with the timing of Trump trying to do his tariffs. Maybe, I don't see the full picture. He knows more of his administration. Would this have been the right time to do it? Probably not, but who knows? What do I know? I'm not in politics. So Kermit Zifrog UK says, market is struggling to price in tariffs, hence the volatility. Yeah, for sure. The uncertainty is just crazy, right? Because one day it's happening, next day it's not. Here's a new tariff. Here's, this country's joining the party now. It's kind of crazy. Abby says, next week everybody's going to jump for join. This is Trump's last term. He will make sure it will be epic. Now, no worries, my people. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. Remember, inflation happens over time. It's the degree of inflation and how fast it happens, right? So we saw coming out of 2020, the 2020, 2021 bull market cycle, they printed the most money ever in the history of the United States, and that led to inflation, and we're feeling the after effects of that, right? However, things don't cost the same they did in 1990, right, or the 2000, and they continue to go up. So there is a natural rebalancing of the pricing. The problem is wages have to catch up to that inflation, because if the wages aren't catching up, that's where people feel the pain, if you know what I mean. But liquidity has to enter into the cycle, and the businesses have to start, doing their thing again, and then paying people more and so forth. So this is where it all has to rebalance. And, Paul Tudor Jones, I remember in Q4 or Q3, he was being interviewed, and he said, we're going to have to inflate our way out of this. There's no other way around it. So they have to print, they have to raise the debt ceiling, print, and inject liquidity into the markets, and for business, the next business cycle to happen. Guys, so I'm going to wrap up soon. I can answer a few more questions. Hit that thumbs up button, hit the 5-star rating, hit the heart button wherever you're watching and listening. We're streaming on multiple platforms. But look, we could be in for more pain here, especially come this week with the April 2nd deadline for the tariffs. We'll see what happens. But the big takeaway, I think, guys, is that Trump already looking at doing some sort of stimulus, some sort of bailout package. This is good for assets. They're going to go back to QE. So Stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Seconds of Meditation says, hey, Tony, any insight on Trump and his executive order on CBDC, JP Morgan, and their coin? I'm not sure I've seen that. Is that something recent? Abby Services says, bring the pain. Guys, even if there's more pain, remember, when in doubt, zoom out. As I've been saying, unless it's a zombie apocalypse, markets will keep going up, right? If you are patient enough and have a macro outlook, markets will keep going up. As long as people need goods and services and entertainment and want to live their lives, markets will keep going up, guys. It's the same thing over and over. You know, whether it was March 2020 pandemic, whether it was the big crash in 2008, whether it was the dot-com bubble pop in 2000, markets will go back up, guys. So just be patient. Jennifer, thank you for being a member. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Shafida says, what about the VeChain staking program? Is that launched? I'm not sure. Shafida, I'm actually interviewing Sunny Liu, CEO of VeChain, this week. So, okay, so it looks like it is available, but you can only do it on certain wallets. So I'll ask, actually, let's see. Kraken allows you to stake. Yeah, looks like Kraken allows you to stake. So it depends where you want to do this. Skrilla says, don't trip, buy the dip. That's for sure. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. We've been streaming for over an hour here. Just to quickly recap before I let you guys go. Bitcoin rejected off the 200-day moving average. We needed to find a bottom and get out of this hole. But we've seen this in the past. Last summer, it did the same thing. It went deep. You had the Japanese yen carry trade situation, right? And then we came out. So nothing stopping us from coming out here. Obviously, the DXY continuing to weaken. That's a very good sign for risk assets. Bitcoin whales, huge spike with wallets of 10 or more Bitcoin. They're buying the dip. So that's a good sign. Stablecoin liquidity on the rise, 2 billion in USDT minted yesterday or over the past couple of days. Global liquidity continues to rise. Very good sign. This is good in a bull market, of course. Trump saying, hey, look, I'm going to do a bailout package. That means QE, guys. They're going to print. So that's good for assets. That's going to drive global liquidity up even more. Michael Saylor buys more Bitcoin. That's a good sign because he sees that there's higher prices on the horizon. The Trump family is launching Bitcoin mining venture Hut 8. I don't think they would be doing this if they didn't see higher prices on the horizon. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is essentially giving the signal here for Congress to pass stablecoin legislation and crypto market legislation. Circle is looking to do an IPO in April. As I said earlier, who the hell does an IPO in a bear market? That's because we're not in a bear market. We're in a bull market, and they're going to get JP Morgan and Citi as underwriters. So that tells you a lot, right? Read between the lines here. Do you launch an IPO when there's fear and uncertainty in the market, when the stock market is dumping? No, that would be dumb, right? I think these guys see the recovery is coming. Big news around Hedera Hashgraph with their private blockchain and much more. So that's it, guys. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't as yet. Jennifer, longtime listener, about time I did. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the support. So guys, remember, patience when it comes to investing. This is not playing the lottery. This is not playing the slot machine at the casino. This is investing. You have to research. You have to educate yourself. Be patient and check your emotions. If you're panic selling, you're doing it wrong. All right. And there has been no invalidation of the bull market, despite the incredible volatility we've been feeling here. And hopefully this week, April 2nd, the deadline for these tariffs, we get some clarity. It's happening or it's not happening. I think when the market knows what's the next step, that, okay, hey, we're done here, right? We have it or we don't have it. We can move forward and put it behind us. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.